In January of 1830, a debate took place here between two senators that would be very significant for American history. It used to be very well known, less well known today. That should probably be lamented, because the debate that took place here will lay the foundation of and formulate a new nationalist ideology, one that will end up fueling the Civil War, one that will end up being, front and center in any textbook written in the United States after the Civil War, arguably right up to the present. And you can see it in the structures here in Washington, D.C., if you know where to look. So what happened here? What was this debate? Well, it starts out as a debate over the selling of federal land. The two main actors, Webster-Hayne of South Carolina and Daniel Webster of Massachusetts, these two senators. Well, Hayne gets up, and in his first speech, again, he's not even talking about the fundamental nature of the Union originally, but he does make this statement. He says that the life of our system is the independence of the states. The life of our system is the independence of the states. So he makes that claim. He is wary of consolidation, of too much power centralizing in and around the federal government, to the point where the federal government can dole out favors to one group of states at the expense of the others. He doesn't like that. Well, then Daniel Webster gets up. His first speech, he rebukes Hayne for this. In fact, he asks the question publicly. This is something maybe you couldn't have done so publicly a generation before, during the founding generation. But he gets up and he asks, well, is consolidation evil? Is consolidation evil? And then he makes the claim, sort of rewriting history a little bit, he makes the claim that the founders supported consolidation and saw it as a good thing. In reality, it was much muddier than that. Clearly, he'd never had a conversation with Patrick Henry, but in any case, this was his claim. Well, Hayne gets up, his second speech, and he offers a very direct definition of the Constitution, one that I think Jefferson would have very much approved of, Madison would have usually approved of, and that most Americans this is probably how they saw things at the time. His definition of the Union was that it was a compact between the states. The Union was a compact between the states. The states had created the Constitution. The states had created the Union. Therefore, the Union, the federal government, was the agent of the states. And the states were not, therefore, obligated to obey unconstitutional federal legislation. If they hadn't given the federal government those powers in the first place, well, then they weren't obligated to obey them, obviously. And so this is his argument. And furthermore, he says that, the founders, they had never meant to create one vast consolidated government into which all the state governments must be submerged. And that never happened. And he points out some apparent hypocrisy on the part of Webster. He says, look, you guys, you have this big problem with us Southerners now when we won't get on board with your program. And so you speak about the glories of consolidation, how great it is, and, a strengthened federal government means a strengthened union and all that. But during the War of 1812 or the Louisiana Purchase, a whole host of other times when many Northerners didn't want to get on board with perceived Southern programs, well, then the federal government must be checked, its power must be limited. And some of your people were speaking about out-and-out secession, Mr. Webster, and you said nothing about it. So a little bit of hypocrisy going on here, talking about the glories of strong federal power, now that it's a Northern program, now that you're in charge and it's a Northern program that you want us to get on board with. Now he points this out. He says, the true friend of the Constitution is he who wishes to safeguard the limits of federal power according to the Constitution. So that's Hayne's argument. Well, Webster gets up in his second speech, and this is really important. He's going to lay the foundation here for a new nationalist ideology. In the process, he's going to do a little rewriting or whitewashing of history, but this is what he says, essentially. He defines the Union as not a compact between the states, in fact, as not having even been created by the states. He says, no, the Union is a compact of the people. It was created by the people. The Constitution was created by the people, not the states. Now that's pretty heady language. I mean, who wants to be against the people? Everyone supports the people. The problem is, of course, that while people did create the Constitution, people did create the Union, the people did not create these things. If you go back and look at, how was the Constitution ratified, which is really what matters legally. How was it ratified? The Constitution was ratified state by state. Each state organized a ratifying convention. The people got together in that ratifying convention, the people of that state, and then they either voted for it or against it. So state by state by state, one at a time, the Constitution was ratified. And this is how it was ratified. This is how it was created and given legal force. But Webster's arguing, no, that's not the way it was. He presents it as if almost there had been some sort of national convention, some national ratification convention, where the people had all voted in one big conglomeration, one big unit. Of course, that never happened. But this is what he argues, and it's a powerful image. The people. In fact, he describes the government as the government of the people, made for the people, made by the people, and responsible to the people. And if that language sounds somewhat familiar, well, it should. With a few adjustments, this is the language that Abraham Lincoln adopts for his Gettysburg Address. And that's done purposefully. He probably had memorized parts of Webster's speech. Webster's second speech, by then considered by many Northerners to be one of the greatest speeches in American history. You see, this debate, it really did formulate a new politics, a new conception of the fundamental nature of the Union. This is a powerful conception, one that will justify war, a war that will stack up maybe 800,000 bodies. This is going to be its justification. So this is really important stuff. And after the debate, we'll see that in the North, Webster is declared the winner of the debate. In the South, of course, Southerners consider Hayne to have dismantled Webster in the debate. But now this has been publicly debated in such a way that the nature of the Union from here on out will be a topic. The debate over this will be a thing for the next 30 years or so, 35 years, right up through the war. And then after the war, what we'll see is that virtually every textbook declares Webster the undisputed winner of this debate. Poor Hayne is sort of chucked to the side. And school children by the millions will learn about Webster's great victory here. And what they're really being taught, perhaps, is a lesson in who writes the textbooks. But in any case, Lincoln will adopt Webster's view. Union armies will adopt Webster's view. All the textbooks post-Civil War will adopt Webster's view. And arguably, Webster's view continues right up to the present. It doesn't matter if a super quote-unquote liberal historian writes a book, or if a super quote-unquote conservative historian writes a book. They all seem to latch on to Webster as the winner and Webster's view as correct. So this is a very, very interesting phenomenon. This debate, very, very significant in laying the foundation for a new nationalist ideology, one that whitewashes the old history. The old history of the old narrative of a constitutional convention that had to be, shuttered, the doors locked, people sworn to secrecy because they're talking about things that would have been unpopular, things like consolidation. A constitutional convention where the nationalist system that was proposed at the beginning was gutted of most of its nationalism. Still a federalist document that came out of the Constitutional Convention. Ratification conventions in which nationalists had to speak like federalists and make federalist promises to get the Constitution passed. Don't worry, this is going to be a federalist document. Don't worry, the sovereignty of the states will be protected. Don't worry, in Virginia, you can pull out if it's not serving your interests. All this will be whitewashed in favor of the idea of a union created by the people, a union that is defined as a giant, indivisible megastate. And this is exactly the union that millions of American school children pledge allegiance to every day.
If you're interested in taking a deeper dive into history, consider one of my full courses, each including something like 400 plus pages of text, 30 plus hours of audio, 50, 60, 70 on-location videos filmed all over the world, plus all the scaffolding you could ask for should you want to take it like a traditional student. We're talking guided notes, both blank and filled, quizzes, structure training, document lessons. These really are unique and one of a kind. Check them out. Also, if you want to support what I do here, consider joining Nomad Nation, where you'll gain exclusive access to monthly webinars, Q&A, a monthly newsletter called Nomad Notes, special live stream events from all over the world. I'll send you 4 postcards a year, discounts. Go check all this out at nomadicprofessor.com.